Hi, Faith Baptist, and anybody else out there. It's Pastor Borden coming to you with the midweek devotional. I issued a challenge for the month of October, which was to read the Sermon on the Mount once a week. That's Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And the idea here was, let's get something coming into us other than all this American political news and opinion that we're going to be just bombarded with all month up to their election at the beginning of November. Because the Sermon on the Mount reminds us what Jesus' kingdom looks like, what the citizens of that kingdom look like. I think that's a really helpful and healthy counterpoint for us, especially in this season, although it's good anytime, because we want to be familiar with Jesus' voice and the vision he has for who we ought to be. But I think there's something that happens when we read the Sermon on the Mount where we take a look at everything that's said there and we think, well, that's awfully hard. Or in some cases, I think people look at that and say, well, that's kind of wimpy. Maybe they have a certain idea of what strength is, or a version of manliness that they look at and they think, well, this, what's going on with this? Blessed are the poor, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are those who grieve. Some of these things people see in the Beatitudes, and they wonder about, well, what kind of life is that? And I just want to remind us, first of all, that if we think anything that Jesus is telling us is wimpy, we don't understand Jesus very well. This is someone who stood up to the most powerful people, who risked death, who willingly went to his own execution, allowed that to happen to himself in order to protect and help others. There's nothing wimpy about Jesus or anything that he asks us to do. And the other side of it is sometimes we don't fully understand what we're seeing here. I want to talk about one beatitude in particular, and it's blessed are the meek. All right, and I think when we read that, people think, well, it's talking about people who are kind of pushovers, right? Blessed are people who are, really quiet, who don't assert themselves, who, maybe they let other people walk all over them. That's what we associate with that word meek in English. And this is one of those situations where our English words don't quite work with the Greek words that we're translating. Meek is maybe the best that can be done in English, but it's not a great way to understand this passage. And I thought it was really interesting when I read that the Greek word for this is kind of descriptive of what happens when someone has a wild horse and then they manage to domesticate it, when they break that wild horse and allow it to become used for farming, for travel, for whatever they're going to use it for. So that horse has all this strength, all this power, but it's not useful to the person until the horse's will is broken, until it's domesticated, until it's able to then use that power for a purpose that's valuable to the person who's trying to train it. And that's what that word really is about in Greek. Blessed are those who have power that is under control. Blessed are those who are able to make use of the skill, the ability, the competency, the strength that they have. And that, to me, was just a very different way of looking at that. So it's not saying, blessed are those who are pushovers. It's saying, blessed are those who have strength, who have power, but who have it under control, who can use it effectively, who don't just run wild and do whatever they feel like, but are able to apply that strength that they have to something useful, to something valuable, to something that's helpful to God and his kingdom and to the people around them. And so maybe that just helps a little bit. And when you see that, you start to see in some of the other Beatitudes the ways that this isn't, building up to a caricature of some kind of really quiet, wimpy person. It's a person who is very capable, is very strong, but knows how to use that in a way that actually helps the people around them. That's true of being a peacemaker. That's true of being a number of things on that list. So that's just a little tidbit from the Sermon on the Mount for today. And I hope you will take some time and just read those 3 chapters a few times this month and just start to get that feel for what Jesus is saying about what his kingdom looks like and what his people are meant to be. Let me have a quick prayer for you. God, I pray for everyone this week, whether this is a normal week, a challenging week. God, help them to see you at work. Help them to find joy in you. I pray that you would just bless each one watching this and help us to turn our ear to you, to listen to your words, to recognize the kinds of things you call us to and the way you ask your followers to live. And may we be blessed by reading your words and training ourselves to hear your voice. Help us to have our power and our strength under control so that it's valuable and useful to the people around us. And if we will do that, then we know that we will be blessed.